Sonny, for anybody who is watching at home on the or anywhere actually on Rumble, with the visuals here in the video, what's you can't really tell, but you've done a quick makeup job. What's going on here? What happened?
Well,
What happened to the side of your nose?
as I was just explaining, my child, who is now 10 months old, his little fingernails are like little tiny razor blades. And he loves to just grab. I think it's a sign of love how that he grabs my face,
Yeah, sure.
but he does it and
Oh,
he
that part is the
leaves.
grabbing of the face. Yeah.
Are you sure he's
Yeah,
not? Are you sure he's not Wolverine?
he could be, which would be really cool. But yeah,
That
he
would be
got me
so
real
awesome.
good. He got me real good. This is actually from yesterday and it just started bleeding again. So it might leave a scar lifelong.
Sling blade.
She's
Maybe.
playing hurt, everybody.
Edward, yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good. Playing hurt, got makeup in the wound there, I'm sure. So
I
some
know
kind
it's
of
burning.
right, some kind
She's
of
the Roger Clemens of this podcast.
Honestly, it's
There you
something
go,
you
line
men.
drive. There you go,
Roger
baseball reference.
you
Yes.
do you mean Roger Clemens or you mean Kurt Schilling with the bloody sock?
Kurt Schilling.
Yeah,
Did I
the
say
bloody
Roger
sock.
Clemens?
I'm
I'm sure he was bleeding at some point too.
Kurt Schilling and I follow each other on Twitter or X, and I DM'd with him one time. He did reply and said something about my grandfather, who was a baseball player, and then I invited him to be on this podcast, and he stopped replying.
I believe that.
How about that?
Maybe he's still
Anyway,
will. There's hope.
but I think speaking of this podcast, I encourage people to like and subscribe and do all those things that to help us grow, because this is the Line Drive Podcast. So this will probably be the last show we do before the debate next week. So I want to talk about that, and that probably will consume most of the time here. But first, I want to talk about this. Have you guys? I'll confess that until just a couple of days ago, I had never heard the phrase or the term "cheap fake."
You guys knew?
Oh, okay. So who invented this idea? Let me explain what I now understand a cheap fake to be. So people understand what the concept of a deep fake is. I think it's a video or a picture that is usually using advanced technology like artificial intelligence or something similar, where it actually makes a fake piece of video of something that a person never did or never said. It never actually occurred. It's called a deep fake because it looks really real and it's hard to tell that it is in fact fake. Well, now there's this new thing just in the last couple of days called a cheap fake, which is allegedly defined as video that has been manipulated in some way, but in the simple ways, like different framing or taking it out of context even, or simple regular old edits. That's what a cheap fake is. So I only learned about this like 48 hours ago, that such a thing called a cheap fake exists. Hogan, what do you know about this?
Well, first of all, the left is up in arms. All the Democrats are up in arms because they're alleging that a lot of the videos of Joe Biden just this month of him being unable to get into a SUV or walk without assistance or just stopping and staring off into the distance or, freezing, those are all taken out of context. Well, first things first, I am so glad that the liberal media found Jesus on taking people out of context and how that's wrong, because Lord knows they do it to Trump every single day. But that's not what this is. All you're doing is playing the video of Joe Biden, his extreme mental and physical decline that happens on a daily basis. And they're angry that you're noticing. That's the problem. So now they have to come up with they have to invent a term to let you know, no, what you're seeing isn't real. It's so infuriating and insulting because we talked about this before on the podcast. It's like, oh, no. You just think you're paying more for gas and groceries. You're too stupid to understand. The economy is actually good for you. Oh, no. Yep. You just think you see Joe Biden trip up the stairs. No. You're too stupid. That's not really. It's they edited it wrong. They shot it from the wrong angle. It's so insane. But the body of work, the idea is massive. And the idea that he can't handle simple physical tasks, that is a cake that is way overbaked at this point. Yeah. Everyone knows he is horribly in physical decline. Democrats know it, Republicans know it, independents know it. So it's nothing new.
No, and it's not anything new, and it's pretty shocking actually that the media is actually going to go through this kind of exercise again. Like you're saying, they're trying to convince people that they're not seeing what they're seeing. I mean, and when they're trying to say, oh, these, by even using the term cheap fake, they've obviously picked up the terminology of the White House, because it was the White House press office that started this thing, because they want
the term.
Yeah, well, no, they've dug up somebody who wrote a book about it a few years ago. But anyway, it's the people at the White House communications shop for Biden who have started this thing and got everybody. And of course, they said these are cheap fakes. No one should put these on the air. And of course, all the networks went, okay, yes, we will. And they all started.
It's the laptop all over again.
Yes. So that's what I was getting at. It is exactly like the laptop. The media told everyone that the laptop was Russian disinformation, which it wasn't. And now they're telling everybody that all these videos that you see of Joe Biden acting like a decrepit old man are fake, when they're not. Now, listen, you can have an argument over what the proper context is for videos, if the video could possibly be interpreted in different ways. You can have an argument over what the context is, whether it's taken out of context or whatever. And if the Biden campaign wants to claim that their political opponents are mischaracterizing what is seen in these videos, then have at it. That would be absolutely normal for a political campaign to gripe about something that the opposition is doing. But what you can't do is say that these videos are fake, because they're not, and one of them, gosh, Barack Obama is there. And the reason why they want to call this video fake is because of how damaging it is. They want everyone to think, oh my gosh, that they can't possibly be real, because Obama, they're on stage and Biden is waving to the crowd, and then he stops and freezes for multiple seconds. The White House explanation was that he's basking applause there on stage at this fundraiser. So, fine, let's accept that.
No, stop.
What?
They weren't clapping for him. They were there for Obama in the first place.
Well, maybe so, fine. But even so, let's just accept that he's standing there just looking at the crowd, and he did not actually freeze up. But that does not explain why Obama felt compelled, who's standing right next to him, felt compelled to actually grab him by the forearm. Not like, hey, buddy, let's go. Or something. He actually reached over and grabbed him up high on the arm here, and pulled him and turned him and got him steered towards the part of the stage that they were going to use to exit. And then he put his hand on the back of Biden, on the back of his sport jacket, and pushed him and guided him all the way off the stage for like 25 or 30 seconds as they walked away until they were all lost from view when the curtain came down.
Sonny,
I mean, Barack Obama, you haven't seen any of this? Barack Obama assisted him off the stage for a lengthy walk. It was really dramatic. And they're saying that, that they want you to believe that piece of video is fake. Now, Sonny, you ask yourself, what do you think? What is it that what's the strategy here? What are they trying
I don't know what the strategy is, because I think normal everyday people who aren't even involved in politics see Joe Biden. They see these clips of him just absolutely making a fool of himself, standing there. I mean, all the clips from the G7 summit are bad. They are so embarrassing for our country. But one thing I want to know is that everything they accuse us of doing, they're doing.
Actually,
or they have, their people doing it, their influencers. Did you all see, it was a tweet, I don't know, I can't remember the guy's name, but he took a picture of President Trump holding Don Jr.'s hand at a rally. Did y'all see that? And then
it says Tyler Cohen or something like that. He has a
it says does not lie or whatever.
Tyler something or Cohen.
Yes.
Brian Cohen.
I don't know. He posts this and says, oh, Donald Trump needs help getting off the stage from a rally. Amazing. The community notes on that were fire. So many people posting the full clip. I mean, that is a cheap fake. That's a really bad attempt to try to get one. Horrible.
Yeah. But so what do we get from the press then? Instead, when the Biden White House says, oh my gosh, all these things are fake, instead of the Associated Press saying, well, actually, this is what the video does show, and it could be interpreted as being the guy has lost his mind. That's not what they do. In fact, they say, oh yes, we will do exactly like you say, White House. And so the AP actually did a fact check on the Obama video that we were just describing, the fundraiser there where he helps Biden off the stage at length there, where they just said that the former president, that Obama was just being chummy, right? Mm-hmm. That's all he was doing. He was just being a pal. That's all. This is an AP fact check. According to a source who helped organize and attended the fundraiser. So an unnamed anonymous Biden donor is evidence in the AP's fact check. No, he was just being chummy. And then they also quoted, of course, Jimmy Kimmel was involved in this event too. So they quoted Jimmy Kimmel's spokesman saying that, oh, no, that it was that was nonsense. Right. That kind of interpretation was nonsense. So the evidence cited in the AP fact check is an unnamed Biden donor and the press flack for the guy who used to co-host The Man Show on Comedy Central. And that qualifies as a fact check by the Associated Press. Well, okay, I'm sure it must be wrong if the guy from The Man Show says it, by God.
Who by the way, famously wore blackface that was darker than Barack Obama.
Yeah, right.
That out too. Here's what's interesting. You were saying this. It just kind of dawned on me. Barack Obama had been on stage with him the whole time, right?
Right.
If I'm in a room with an elderly person for an extended period of time, we're having a conversation, and that person's like, "All right, I want to go in the kitchen," and I see them get up and they're frail. I help them or whatever, right?
Sure.
I would imagine Barack Obama, whether he was doing it on purpose to kind of show he's still the alpha in this situation or not.
That might be it too.
He was sitting there interacting with Joe Biden this whole time, going through his mind, having heard some of the clips of that interaction, that he was like, I'm going to have to help this old guy backstage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
It That's probably exactly triggered him to go, oh gosh, This is really bad. I hope he can make it back there,
Now, some of the other stories that are going on here is that their back channel, the White House, is really pissed at Obama for having done that. So, but that's a problem for the White House because they can't be mad at Obama for doing that. At the same time, they're claiming that there was nothing there to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If there's nothing there to see, then what are they mad at?
Yeah.
You can't be mad at.
He'd still be there if Barack Obama hadn't helped him.
Tim, do your friends escort you by the arm whenever you're with them, walking somewhere with them?
You mean like would my children taking care of the decrepit old man that is their father?
No, I'm saying since this is all just fun friends. My friends
they're just being chummy.
Yeah, my chummy friends don't just grab me by the arm and walk me off.
No, I mean back when I was drinking, sometimes they would do that.
Tim doesn't have any friends.
I'll claim Tim as a friend.
Yeah, I'll be your friend, Sonny. But it wasn't. Let's see. The AP was just one, and we'll get to the debates here in a second. But there are some others that were just. Oh, CBS. This is a good one.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up.
Yeah, CBS was just embarrassing. They posted a story on X about the deep fakes and the cheap fakes and the difference. They were educating people, about what cheap fakes are. Because this is something that they didn't know about yesterday morning either, and they had to learn what it was. Anyway, so they had to delete and then repost their story about the cheap fakes because they included in the story the wrong version of one of the videos that they were talking about. So if you think about it, it means that their own story was, say it with me here, a cheap fake. That is so great. Their own story about cheap fakes contained a cheap fake inadvertently, which kind of just makes them all dumb look silly. And then the last one is NBC. NBC absolutely wins the award for the funniest spin. Honest to God, they did this, and this was not attributed to anybody. This was just in NBC's fact check about the thing. They said that Mr. Obama is, are you ready for this? This is a quote, more punctual than Joe Biden. And he was simply signaling to Joe Biden that it was time to leave the stage. That's it. That's all he was doing. Barack Obama is the more punctual of the two. And he was just saying, hey, Joe, it's time to go. So he was just worried that it was late.
He was directing the president of the United States of when to do what.
You expect us to believe?
Because he knew that Joe had a medication he had to take and it was getting late, too close to the medication, maybe. And that was trying to be punctual for that. Punctual for what?
Yeah, right. It was like it's the evening fundraiser in Hollywood.
That was the crescendo.
Last event of the day, I would imagine they were walking off stage. Oh boy, we got to get whoo-wee. Like, honest to God, where does Joe Biden have to be where they won't wait for him?
Yeah, he's the president.
He is the president. That these people.
So great.
True.
So anyway, all right. So all that the cheap fakes is the new thing, and so watch out. What's going to be happening now is that the media is going to be screaming and yelling at any time. Now, mind you, they didn't care when everybody abused video of Donald Trump walking down a very steep ramp. Hogan,
Sure.
I know
In the rain.
that. In the rain, right?
In
And then
dress
also, how about taking things out of context and using only pieces of video in order to create a narrative that didn't exist before? How about the whole bloodbath fiasco from just a few weeks ago, right?
Of course.
Every one of these media outlets participating in this cheap fakes nonsense wrote a ridiculous story about the bloodbath nonsense and the stuff that was taken out of context from a Trump rally, where what he was really talking about was economic disaster in the auto industry, referring to that as a bloodbath. And everybody in the national news media made it sound like he was threatening to have some kind of riot if or a bloodbath if he doesn't win of a violent nature. I mean, it's astounding to me that now everybody's running around acting like they're offended by the idea that somebody might take a piece of video and make it do something that doesn't match its original intent. You know what I mean?
One more thing,
guys, this is politics. Did you just get here?
One more example I just thought of too. The story of the Border Patrol agent with the whip on the horse.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a
Sure.
cheap fake.
Oh, my God. That was completely manufactured.
Yeah. Unreal.
That is a fantastic example.
They even found out remember, as I recall, they found out in the like investigation internally, he didn't actually touch the guy. And they still said he had to, they still reprimanded him in some way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
And also reprimanded.
Every once in a while, Biden still makes reference to it like it hadn't already been debunked.
Like his teaching constitutional law for 10 years or whatever.
He just keeps saying these things that everyone knows are not true. But speaking of things that Joe Biden says that everyone knows are not true, I want to take you back in time to a little bit less than 4 years ago. And here you go.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Look, there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
Manager Kate Bedingfield just a short while ago said that if the president does bring up some of these attacks against Hunter Biden, that this is essentially amplifying Russian disinformation.
Let's just be clear. If the president decides to amplify these latest smears about the vice president and his surviving son, that is Russian misinformation.
There we were. The last time it was debate season, Trump versus Biden. Everybody and their mother was out there lying about the laptop and where it came from. And so that was the last time we saw Joe Biden on stage. He was telling bold-faced lies about where his family made money, whether his son's laptop was Russian disinformation or not. And everybody else from his campaign was dispatched to all the different networks, and they were going out and promulgating the same exact lies. Now they'll be back up on stage again, coming up on Thursday next. Hogan, you're going to be doing or you've been invited anyway, to do some media, I'm sure, pre and post debate. I got some requests as well, so I'll be going to do similar things. Sure. Not in the same places, but we'll start with you. What are you going to tell the folks in advance before the debate? What's on the line here? What are you looking at?
Well, I think a lot is on the line for this one. I think everyone's going to be watching this in large part because it really is early. Also, Joe Biden had to do this. He's getting trounced in all these polls, and I feel like he needed to do something to change the narrative. And I would argue, don't want to be conspiratorial here, but long way till convention. Maybe Democrats could do something if Joe Biden face plants. But Joe Biden's been an elected official for half of a century. Okay, they're going to shoot him up with enough,
B12
debate Viagra to keep him alert for that 90 minutes or whatever. Plus, there are 2 commercials, which they've never had before either. So he's going to be fine, I think, mentally. What I would love to see is if he does freeze, or if he does pause, or if he does say something wrong, and then the commentator just goes back to Trump and says, "All right, Mr. Trump, you have a minute to respond." I would love for him to reach out and go, "No, Joe lost his train of thought again. It's okay. He can have my minute," and just give it back over to him. That would be great.
That would be good.
I think, look, if Joe Biden goes out there and just drools on himself, doesn't even opens his mouth just enough to drool, they're going to be like, the media will say, I'm telling you, he showed such fortitude, just being still enough to take on Donald Trump the way he did. Boy, he's brilliant. He can say he's running for Senate, and they're going to say he's Churchill. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden does. And typically in these debates, as you know, Tim, you want to lower expectation for your guy and raise them for the next guy.
Right.
It's hard to raise expectations for Joe Biden because he is so down in the polls and he is so cognitively, physically, mentally in steep decline. It's hard to do that. But the guy's been around for 50 years, and he's doing a full week of like debate prep at Camp David. And a commentator and I were arguing about this earlier, and they said something like, so basically for 7 days, though, he's going to focus on this and not really focus on being president. I was like, he hadn't focused on being president since he got elected.
Well, some would say that he focused a little too much on something.
Yeah. Well, what's the difference? I mean, he's like, well, I said, usually it's Delaware on the beach, struggling with a folding chair. Now he's just at Camp David.
Or bicycle.
I don't know. I'm ready for it. I want to see it. And we got a week to talk about it.
Sonny, you're actually working at the campaign. What's the word on the street?
Yes. Well, we know I love debates, as we have all discussed.
You do love debates. You talk about it all the time.
I hate them.
Yes. So I'm hyped up for this. Hogan pretty much hit everything just right on the head. Joe Biden being able to stand up for 90 minutes without falling asleep is not a victory. And the media and his team are going to say that exactly. No matter what he does, they're going to say, wow, he just did such a great job. He won. Not true at all. He has a record, a horrible record that he has to get up there and defend. And that nothing he can say can defend his horrible record. I mean, you can't dispute the facts of how horrible everything is for American people right now, how terrible the economy is. And also, too, our stance on the world stage. I'm thinking and I'm hoping that it's brought up about the horrible withdrawal from Afghanistan. All these things that happened early on in his presidency that a lot of people might have forgotten about need to be brought back to the forefront of their minds and say, he really has weakened us on the world stage. We aren't viewed as, the world leader anymore because of how horrible of a president he has been. So I think we're going to see strength from President Trump. I mean, contrast it with his 4 years, a great record that he has to get up there and tout. And I think, it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a win for us. And I'm very excited for it.
Good.
I will enjoy. I always enjoy watching the debate, but now that I'm not, I want to defend my position on debates. When I am full-time working on a campaign staff, debates are the worst thing ever.
That's what we say.
Yeah. It's such a gigantic task, and everything is crushed into a 90-minute time frame, and there is so much work to be done in such a compact period of time, and there's just excruciating pressure. It's really very unpleasant. And then when it's over, it's great, right? So, but being largely a spectator and then being asked to comment on it, well, that's just like the best possible scenario, if you ask me.
So fun.
Because I'm going to watch it anyway. I might as well talk about it.
Yeah,
TV,
sure.
Right? I'm sure But so we'll talk about the expectations game, Hogan. You brought that up. And I've always, you're exactly right. The rule of thumb is you raise expectations for your opponent and you lower them for your own guy. I've been through that many times. Was how I was able to cover your ears, Sonny. It's how I was able to get the phrase master debater in the Washington Post, because I was talking about Tim Kaine way back when in a governor's race back in Virginia in 2005, I think.
I remember you telling me about this.
Anyway, but when it comes to Trump and Biden, the expectation game, like, I'm not sure. Maybe it's kind of out the window. First of all, can you raise and lower expectations for people as famous as these two guys. I mean, almost every American is as familiar with these two people as you could be with any two candidates, I would think.
That's a good point.
Sure.
One is currently the president, and the other one is the most recent former president, and arguably the most famous human on the planet. So I'm not sure the expectation game really matters in this one. And if a lot of people say, oh, the Trump talks about Biden drooling on himself and falling asleep and, tripping into his oatmeal or whatever. And all they've done is lower the bar, and all he has to do is survive to the end of the debate. And that will be considered a victory because of how low the bar has been lowered. And to me, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not sure that's such a bad thing, because if the debate comes and goes and the press treats Biden like he had a really good night, I'm not sure that's bad for the Trump campaign, because like we've discussed before, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there is a non-zero chance that Joe Biden does not end up on the ballot in November, that he is replaced. I mean, we just talked about it. The Democratic National Convention is not until August. So if he goes out and face plants and they have to come up with a plan B, there's time to do that. There is a non-zero chance that Joe Biden's going to be on the ballot. But I know that the Trump campaign would rather run against Joe Biden than some other random Democrat that could come off the bench like Gavin Newsom or somebody else. Joe Biden is a known quantity. I think they'd rather run against Joe Biden. So they want Biden to come out of the debate strong so that he remains on the ballot, right? Do you follow me? Does that make any sense? So like you want Biden to do well in sort of it's like a bank shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The expectation game lowers the bar for him, but that's what you want, because you want him to do well, because you need him to stick around. You don't want him to be replaced, if you follow my circular argument.
Well, that's a very good point, Tim. But one thing too that I want to point out, I think President Trump agreeing to do this CNN debate, going into it knowing it's going to be 3 against 1 in there. Probably not going to be very neutral in their hosting of the debate, but we have hope. But I think President Trump going and doing this, going into the Lion's Den, knowing it's going to be 3 against 1, that's how bad he wants to go and debate Joe Biden and really hold his feet to the fire and say, your policies have been horrible for the country. Mine have been great. And he's willing to do that. Do you think Joe Biden would be willing to do that if roles were reversed? No,
he already said. Remember, Trump even said, "Let's do it on Fox, whatever." He's like, "Oh no, we don't want to argue about debates. Let's just do the 2." So yeah, honestly, it kind of works either way, because let's say Donald Trump gets in there and it's kind of a draw, or people don't think his performance was good. Well, it's 3 against 1. What do you expect? It's CNN, right? If he goes in there and crushes it, be like, it was 3 against 1, and the guy went in there. You know what I mean? Like either way, you kind of point to like a victory. But what's fascinating is, I heard Joe Biden, or was it? No, I heard Trump say that like it's 3 on 1. He goes, well, basically he said it's like 2.5. It's on 2.5 on 1, because being like Joe Biden's half of a man.
Oh, so the moderators get a full
point.
He didn't say it that way, but he said something like, well, I mean, it's 3 on 1. And he goes, well, I mean, it's like 2 on 1, then a half or something like that. But he was basically pointing out Joe Biden wasn't all there. It's really good. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the mic's cutting off and I'm interested to see how that works. And like Sonny, you said, I mean, CNN cuts away from Donald Trump all the time when he's speaking. He's like, we're not going to listen to these lies anymore. So they're just going to cut away from him mid-sentence if they don't like what he's saying. I mean, they do. I get
the feeling that they've got these rules set up, and if you read the rules and the idea of a mic being muted when it's not your turn to talk, I mean, that kind of takes away from the dynamic back and forth that a debate can have, right? And clearly that is done to protect Joe Biden, because that's all of the rules that they put in. Now I understand that they are requesting to be able to be seated during the debate also, which is of course something else that Biden is looking for. Again, this whole thing reminds me of a story from 2020 when it was during debate preparations in the days leading right up to it. And the 2020 campaign's debate negotiator was a guy by the name of Max Miller, who is now a congressman from Ohio. And Max, we were in a conference room and Max was on speakerphone. He was out. It was before the Cleveland debate. He was out in Cleveland on the ground, and he had just come from the last negotiating session with the Biden people. And so we're all listening to Max describe this on the speakerphone. And he goes through, oh, yeah, we talked about the podium height and this and that and all that stuff. And then we get to the end and he goes, oh, there's one more thing. Right when everybody was packing up, I said to the Biden people, oh, yeah, one last thing. We're going to want to be able to do an earpiece check. And we're all quiet for a second. And somebody goes, what? And he goes, an earpiece check. I told them that we wanted to be able to check their candidate to see if he's wearing an earpiece. I'm like, oh my God, what did he say? Oh, well, they all freaked out and blah, and they all stormed out of the room. And I don't know. They might have agreed to it. I don't know. And so
I know Max really well. That's great.
So then the day the debate rolls around and so then the Biden people are saying, we're not having any earpiece checks. So we told a couple of reporters that they backed out of the earpiece check. And we actually got a couple of stories written about it. Biden backs out of earpiece check for debate, but that was Max Miller.
That's great. Got to do it again. And he's not doing a drug test either.
They're not doing that. I know. We
not.
talked about that too, and I know Trump has been talking about that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I would love for that to be a thing, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's gonna be.
So there's one last. I didn't tell you guys about this one, but this clip I was right before we went on the air. This clip from Rachel Maddow on The View is so great. So here they're looking ahead to whether or not. They're looking ahead to a world where Trump has won again and Trump is the new president again. And of course, for the people of The View and Rachel Maddow, this is really very difficult to even comprehend the idea that Trump can be president again. But this is so great. Watch this. They are living. I swear these people, the way they hear them talk, just I'll play it. Because I don't want to, it's too much.
Don't ruin
you
it,
said
Tim.
Recently that you thought that you, as an outspoken critic, could be a target yourself. Some people think that sounds overdramatic, but I'm right there with you. I think that he is so vindictive that he will go after, however he has to, through the IRS maybe, or even, through sponsors to get us off the air maybe, or you. Yeah. How seriously should we be taking that?
Well, so I was asked, am I worried about me? And my answer was, I'm worried about all of us. I'm no more worried about me than I am worried about everybody in the country. Yeah. I think it's bad to have somebody saying, give me as much power as you can in this country so I can use it to go after other Americans. So I can use it to go after these subhuman internal enemies and I'll destroy them. Yeah. Like, that's just not.
Okay. What country has Rachel Maddow or Joy Behar been living in? Where have they never heard of complaints from our side about, I don't know, using the IRS to go after private citizens, to go after their political opponents, to attack sponsors of broadcasters and try to drive sponsors away from programming that they don't like? Gosh, where in the world would Trump ever get such unbelievable ideas to attack political opponents?
Yeah, Sonny said it earlier, and I say it all the time too, and that is Democrats always accuse us of things they are guilty of actually doing. They literally used Lois Lerner to suppress people who are conservative C3 groups and go after C3 groups, right? Prevent them from getting certain tax-exempt status. They've gone after all the sponsors of conservative shows from Tucker Carlson to, anybody. They spied on reporters like James Rosen. They're trying to throw their political opponent right now in jail. And I hate to burst the bubble of Rachel Maddow, who has a show like a couple days a week and is very well paid for it. And boy, I tell you, I'd love to get a gig like that. But I guarantee you this, if Donald Trump gets elected and he's going to change this country for the better for all Americans, the last person, if he did have some list to go after people, she wouldn't even be in the top 10,000, right? Like, let's not make it where he's so worried about Rachel Maddow of all people.
No, she thinks very highly of herself.
I know.
How many times, hey, Hogan, let me ask you this. How many times has Donald Trump called you on the phone and started off by saying, hey, I was just watching MSNBC?
I was just watching.
I got it on one hand.
Yeah.
0.
You know what's so painful about that clip, though? I mean, just watching it, my jaw just dropped. I mean,
what is she talking about?
The lack of common sense here. But what's more painful about that is that people watch The View. Probably a very small amount of people. I mean, they probably recycling the same people for their live studio audience, but
it's probably a couple million.
You think?
Oh, it's big.
Yeah, it's
a lot of ladies during the day.
I mean, if you look at the ratings for cable news shows, I mean, I bet you the View does pretty well. I bet you they get several.
Tim's a View head. Everyone knows.
No, I know. I get all. I can't watch it.
Well, luckily we are not. We have some Republican representation on there. Alyssa Farah is holding it down for us when she is on there. So at least they're being bipartisan in their coverage.
You're being sarcastic, yes?
I am, yes, yeah.
Yes.
I was hoping that was coming through, but
yeah, I wasn't sure. All right. Well, that's there. We'll I think we'll probably not be able to do a show next week until after
the
debate has already passed on Thursday. So early. Why do you think? Let me go back to the timing of this before the end of June, Hogan. Why did Biden push for a debate this early? Is it truly? It couldn't. There's no way that he would agree to a debate this early for the purpose of leaving time to replace him. He wouldn't agree to that. So,
he wouldn't agree to it. But I think they need to change the narrative because Trump was crushing him on every.
You think that explains moving it up so early?
Yeah, I do think though. When I first heard, I thought, well, that's good because then people will get to see them together before they start voting in September. So it's really early, right? We don't have to wait really late because so many people vote early now. I mean, I think that's a good thing. But I think Biden had to. I don't think this is courageous on his part at all. I think he was floundering, and they realized, I mean, all these stories are coming out in Axios and Politico and other places where Democrats are really concerned about their strategy, that just focusing on, threats to democracy and all that, which, by the way, NPR did a poll where, was it 53% of independents to 42% believe Joe Biden is the bigger threat to democracy for the earlier
because of what he uses government to do.
Yeah.
It's funny. This has been a while now, but I always think back to a Democrat focus group that I saw. And when the moderator or the whatever they call the proctor of the focus group said to them, okay, now I'm going to ask you some questions about January 6th. And that's all the question was. No context, no explanation. Just I'm going to ask you some questions about January 6th. And it was met with a bunch of blank stares. But the people were like, "What? Okay, what about it? Well, who do you think was responsible for it?"
It was cold.
Like, what are you talking about? January 6th, the assault on the Capitol. Oh, that because in the minds of the left, if you say January 6th, just that, it's like the same way they think they can win the argument over illegal immigration by just saying Trump real loud, right?
Yeah.
They think that everyone sees the world exactly. Some people don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
So I think a lot of Democrats are looking at Biden saying, you can't run as being the guy who wasn't there on January 6th. That's not enough. That doesn't necessarily. Anybody who is motivated by that is voting for Joe Biden all day long.
Right.
Probably, already.
Yeah.
I agree.
But one last thing, and then I know we got to wrap, but I want to go back to this Biden debate clip again. Look at this. We already watched it. I'm just play the first 5 seconds.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China. I have not had the only guy made money from China is this guy.
That is not the same Joe Biden who's going to be on stage.
I was going to make that point.
Holy cow. What a difference.
Yeah. Also, I don't like Dr. Fauci. I had to work with him in the White House. I think he's a phony. I think he's a liar. I think he's a fraud. But he was on Capitol Hill recently. He's 2 years older than Joe Biden, and he is straight with it. He's wrong, but he's straight with it.
Sure, but he's got his mind together.
He's fighting back. He doesn't stop, blank stare. I mean, my gosh, just a few years ago, Tim, that's brutal.
Yeah. That's sad. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it is absolutely not the same guy. No. Not at all. And so one last thing, guys, I don't want to bring this I'll close the show on a down note, but I did want to mention this. Our little doggy that my wife Dina and I have had for so long. There he is, Ollie. This is on the day of his graduation from obedience school. That's many years ago. Poor little Ollie passed away this week at the ripe old age of 13 and a half. And he had been living actually for the last like 4 years or so. He's been mostly my parents' dog because he actually couldn't handle being around our two little rambunctious boys a lot. So my parents, there he is. I used to take him to work with me every single day on Capitol Hill. That's me in the House office where I used to work. This is a Congressman Lou Barletta's office. There's Ollie with his model of the Capitol, which he was so fond of it. And then here we are in the Congressman's office. That's me. And Ollie's the short one.
Oh,
there without the tie.
Yeah,
well, he has a tie. It's a white tie on.
Yeah, Congressman Barletta used to let us. I would bring Ollie to the office every single day, and he would work for the constituents and the people of the 11th District of Pennsylvania. 13 and a half. God bless little Ollie.
That's great.
We'll miss him. It was a sad day.
Tim, I didn't know you were such a dog person.
Yeah, my wife. No, I do like dogs, and I don't talk about them much because my parents have been keeping track of them because of the boys, But we got him in 2010, and Dina got him. Her idea was that it would be good for me. It was when I was in a really bad spot with drinking. It's all covered right here in my book, Swing Hard in Case You Hit. It's still available on Amazon. Got a dog to give me something, to have to take care of and be responsible for. Maybe try to keep me out of the bottle. And
it worked.
Well, over time it worked. Ollie was a big part of our lives, and so
I'm so sorry, man. That's sad.
I know that is sad.
I'm gonna say something then about a dog because I had a dog too, and when I had to put my dog down, people thought I was crazy. I'm gonna pose this to you two, okay? So just hold on. When I found out my dog had cancer, the vet was like, it could be like 3 weeks. It could be like 3 months. I'm not sure. She lived for another 6 months. But I went home, made my dog comfortable, and I dug a hole for my dog in the backyard. Now, everyone was like, how in the world could you dig a hole for your dog and maintain that hole for 6 months while your dog... Like
you went and dug the hole the day you got the diagnosis?
Here's why.
Okay.
When the dog died, I wasn't going to take 4 hours to dig the hole after that while the dog was sitting there with, you know what I mean? When I put the dog down, I'm just going to lay it on the ground for 4 hours or 5 hours and have to take breaks and get water while I just said, no, I'm going to have this ready to go. And I had it ready to go.
All right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's being prepared. And I think it's very admirable that you dug his hole because when my dog died, it was really my brother's dog. My grandpa made my brother dig the hole the day he died. And he was crying. It just made it like so much worse.
Sure. That's what I mean.
But my grandpa said that every man should do it. So he became a man at 10 years old, digging his dog's hole.
Was that Baker? Your brother
yes.
Baker?
Yeah.
That's sad.
That's great.
That is sad. Ollie expired. My parents are down in Florida, and that's where Ollie was. He drew his last breath in the Florida sunshine, and he's going to be cremated in Florida, and my mother will she'll bring us the ashes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
we're really ending on a sad note here.
I know. I'm really sorry about that, but you know what? I would hope that if the roles were reversed and I passed away and Ollie had a podcast, that Ollie would mention me on the podcast and my past, and it would show some pictures of us together. I hope so.
He definitely would.
Great.
So this is what the people who are only listening on audio are missing out on. Honestly, that's a good show. We'll talk to you guys after debate day. And
all right.
Figure out what happened at that point. So thanks a lot for Hogan Gidley, Sonny Joy Nelson. I'm Tim Murtaugh. This has been let me get the stinger. Where is it? I can't say the outro before the stinger. This has been the Line Drive Podcast.